All right. So wingman, wingwoman, what do you guys think? Like if is it a good strategy to like say if you're a guy to have a wingwoman or if you're a girl to have a wingman?
I think it's a
Brian.
brilliant strategy. I think it's just what works, right? I mean, no matter how good you are at approaching women or men, oh, I shouldn't say that actually. I think in this case it's only for men. But no matter how good you are at approaching women, I think it's a much more soft opening if you have a female approach her instead.
Hmm.
I don't.
Well, and I guess for me the reason the question came up is because even like in one of our last talks, Jen, there was there was an idea of like how like how to engage in conversation, how people like to have be picked up, and I think what it is that the gaps in each of our knowledge as men and women is pretty big. So there may be a situation that I'm in, and you're like, oh no, that one's totally obvious. Like you should go say something to this girl.
Yeah.
Or hey, no. Like I'm like, no, she's totally checking me out. And you're like, I don't think so. Like she has her
Yeah.
back turned. Like
Yeah.
so I think that's the thing that creates a different dynamic, and I haven't really seen it executed in person or in multiple ways. But I thought it was interesting to think that
It is.
that would be if you were going to make a business around this and say, hey, what would be the
Yes.
best way to accomplish your goal? You'd have to have a woman helping you pick up women. You'd have to have a man helping you pick up men. And like you'd have to see those things that we inherently see as men and you inherently see as women.
I agree. I think definitely in my younger years, I had a core group of guy friends that I hung out with all the time, and it made it so much easier for them. So let's just say that we're at a pool party or this or that, and I'm engaging with females. Hey, my friends have a cabana. If you'd like, you can come back, and have some drinks. Totally non-confrontational. Make them feel comfortable and that kind of thing. Coming back with me versus like if a guy would go up to them, maybe they would feel a little bit more like there was an obligation or some sort of string attached or something like that. So I can 100% attest to the fact that, yeah, it has worked in the past. And again, just me being a bystander, just watching how they interact with those females and saying to them, you have to stop that or be nice or, all these different things that you think that they should just already know. I feel like it was very helpful to them. It has never necessarily helped me personally. I can't quite say that on the other end of things. Other than behind the scenes. So for instance, Brian and I have been friends for 15 years and, behind the scenes, if I have something going on, bounce it off of him and get his perspective, or any of my other guy friends for that matter, it definitely helps to hear that male perspective.
Yeah.
Adam, I got a question for you. How would you feel if a guy approached you while you were out and was playing wingman to his girlfriend?
I think that'd be awesome. Actually, I mean, I think it'd be because I think again the dynamic of being out, approaching people, being approached. Again, like I alluded to last time, we all want to go out and have a good time. So regardless of how you define that, whether it's like I want to go out with my friends, just have some drinks, some food, and just talk, or I want to meet someone, or anything in between. But I think what's difficult is that we all kind of struggle with the idea of like, well, how do we execute that? So when I've been out, I've seen so many times how you see people sitting at their tables and they're just facing their friend and they don't move and they just talk just like this and they never look up and you inherently know that like nobody wants to go to a bar or a restaurant or anywhere else and just sit with the person they came with and never look around because you could have done that at home and saved yourself, $50 on food and drinks, right? So, but I think although the need is there to want to have that good time, it's like, how do you create the spark? So if a guy came up and was like, hey, I'm here with my girlfriend, and she thought you were interesting and this, like, would you mind if I introduce you guys? Like, yeah, it'd be awesome because it would inherently, at the very least, even if I wasn't attracted to this person, didn't like them, it would create a dynamic where now I'm in a situation at a restaurant or a bar or wherever we're at, and something different than the norm happened, which inherently is kind of interesting and fun. And so, and those are the stories we tend to remember, right? If you and I went out, Brian, and like, that happened, we'd both leave going, that was kind of cool, right? That was kind of crazy that guy came up and this happened, and that would be a story. And we would tell that story for years to come.
For sure. I think it makes things less awkward for both parties, right? I mean, it would be uncomfortable if a girl approached me at a bar and was hitting on me. It just
and to Jen's point, right? Like, I mean, especially with women, because there's that like there's that inherent guard up. If when a man comes up and says, "Hey, you want to come back to our cabana?" It's like, "Uh-oh, like, what's going to happen here?" Right? Like, but when a woman does it, there's just a sense of like the guards are down a little bit more. There's more familiarity and comfortability. And I think there's something about women going, "Hey, if another girl who seems cool, likes these guys, they must be okay." Right?
It's given a stamp of approval and,
Yeah.
letting them know that, the coast is clear kind of thing. Yeah, I agree.
I think it makes people feel safe too. I'm imagining, I'm guessing, but I would imagine you feel a little more safe, a little more comfortable if you're approached by a female.
Yeah. So I guess now the next thing is like, how come this doesn't really exist? How come people aren't really doing this? How come we're not finding like great girlfriends to go out with, and girls aren't finding great guy friends to go out with and
Well,
try to
I
set it
think
up?
first of all, because of the mixed messaging, because anytime you see an attractive pair, I'll say, a male and a female, you automatically think they're together. So it may be occurring and maybe they're just not taking the initiative. Maybe they're playing it really safe, wingman or wingwoman, and just kind of like giving them advice from the side and not taking that initiative to actually approach the opposite sex on behalf of the other party. Does that make sense? So like, let's just say, for instance, like Brian and I went out, we were having some drinks. That's not an unusual occurrence, let's just say. But would I ever like have him go so far as to, engage with somebody on my behalf? No. So I would say that that's probably the why of it. I mean, I can name countless times that I've gone out with, single guys, and I'm single, but I would never necessarily rely on the opposite sex to intervene on my behalf. Now, my guy friends would, but I wouldn't as a female necessarily.
I was going to say, I would 100% of the time if that was an available option.
Yeah, but Jen, I think to your point, right? Like, I mean, and I know what you're saying, because I think for women that feels a little bit more uncouth. I don't know, like another word. Like, it doesn't feel like comfortable to like, okay, hey, some guy's gonna walk up, hey man, I got my friend over here. Would you want to come talk to her? But I think let's look at it from a different point of view. Let's look at it from the point of view of, like I said, if we're looking at this as a business, and maybe this is way too logical to do, but if we tried this out as an experiment and we said, we're going to go out 10 nights in a row and I'm going to pick 10 guys for you, what do you think the likelihood would be that you'd find either a guy, a better guy than you would just purely on your own?
I don't know the answer to that, because I don't know that I would ever allow for someone to like.
Right, but play along. If you did, if you did, and it happened, and then the end was like, meaning, what do you think the end result would be? You go out.
I think the end result would be, so here's what I'll say. I've thought a lot about our relationship conversations, and the one that was recorded that nobody could hear our voices. I thought about, we had such good like information in that. And what I thought was, I wish that people could just be more lighthearted about the whole thing in general. Like, we were joking around about how like a woman's not gonna like turn around and be like, kind of thing, because of whatever reason, her ego or this or whatever it is that is going on. And a man's not gonna like, necessarily always walk up to the person that he's interested in, and so on and so forth. But what if they could? Or, why shouldn't they be doing that kind of thing? Why can't it be lighthearted and funny? And, because we all, like you said, we're all looking for some kind of connection. So whether that's just a laugh, whether that's something romantic, wouldn't that be hilarious? Like, if you were sitting in a bar and the girl that you like look over and you, made eye contact with you and was like, I got a seat next to me, come sit. I mean, like, that would be so funny. Or likewise, if a guy, you see an attractive girl and you notice she looks at you more than one time, why not make it like hilarious and be like, those things, I don't know. I was thinking about that the other day. I thought, why is it so serious? But then again, I'm a pretty serious person, and I can't quite say. It would just depend on the mood that I was in, how playful that I wanted to be. But to your point is that oftentimes, if you're thinking about it in a sense of, other than like, maybe you are going to a serious dinner with a friend who really needs an ear or whatever those case, like on the instances that you are going out and you are all looking for that kind of connection, you should enter it in the mind frame that, if I want to engage, I need to be engaging. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think, look, I think what you're saying, I think validates the whole exercise. Is that, would it be more or less likely that you would do the, hey, over here, or like come sit next to me, if
Yeah.
you were by yourself or with a guy?
No.
Because
With a
with,
guy or
with a
with your
guy,
girlfriends, though. I mean, in
well, but
fairness,
right,
I
but imagine the story, right? So the story with a group of girls would be like, okay, for one, I think you'd feel a little bit more comfortable because you know you have a guy there. It
was
would
gonna
probably
say,
be more likely to
I
happen.
agree with that. I do agree with that. I think, and as whatever as it may sound archaic, for lack of a better word, as it may sound, yeah, I would feel more comfortable if
Yeah,
I was with my boys, back in the day, anyways, when I had like friends, I would feel more comfortable acting out, if I had the backing of, just somebody that I felt really comfortable with. And just in case anything went sideways, that, that was,
well, and that's 100% valid. But like, even
yeah,
if there were one more caveat on that, is that, would you be more likely to be open to those kind of funny, crazy situations? Because guys would see the humor in that, right? Like guys would
yeah,
go, shit, let's do it, right? And
yeah,
because there would not only be a safety factor, even if the guy came, like that guy might think it was cool, like, oh wow, that was really cool how you guys did
yeah,
that. So again, regardless if you guys like each other, anything happened, you feel more comfortable if you don't like him because you got your boy there. Two, there's always going to be a buffer of like, that was cool because it was different. Three,
mhm,
at the very least, you got a story out of it. It was funny. You experienced something. And I think four, like, would you be more likely to I mean, although you could do it with your girlfriends and guy friends, would you be more likely to do it with? Because
yeah.
I think girls would judge themselves more with their girlfriends than they would with a guy friend.
Yeah, I think you're right in most instances. Like I said, I'm pretty fortunate. I have some really great girlfriends who don't take themselves too seriously, and
That's
they're
great. Yeah.
always down for a laugh and a good time. And most of them are married, so they feel even more confident if there's any of
Yeah.
us that are single to, act out or rally, for the single individual. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying in the sense that it kind of just takes the pressure off,
Yeah.
that you don't feel so maybe vulnerable or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think
No.
it'd be hilarious. I think you should try that strategy the next time, whenever the pandemic
Yeah.
allows, to go out and just be lighthearted, because it shouldn't be so serious and contrived, and it
Yeah.
should be playful, right?
Well,
That
I'm
would be
coming to
so
Vegas,
funny.
so I'm
You
coming to
what?
Vegas. I'm coming to Vegas, so then we're all gonna go out and we're gonna do this.
That would be hilarious. That
Yeah.
would be so funny.
I have not been in 15 years. In person.
What?
I said I haven't seen you in person in 15 years, even though we both live in the same city.
Have seen me in person in 15 years.
No,
It's been a
not
long time.
Jen used to get after it, just so you know, in the club.
I
Well,
did.
even
Yeah.
more so a reason to get together and just go do something.
Yeah, she would get after it for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Brian,
I wish I could go back in time and implement that. That would be so stinking funny.
Oh, it's
well,
not
I
too-
think, again, it's funny how, like, for myself and with some of my friends, like, we've done a lot of like crazy little things like that, or pulled little stunts like that. And I think
Really?
tons. And not so much with my girlfriends, but just guy friends, like just being how you're saying with your group of friends, they're more amicable to that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And again, even the reason I bring it up is because what I've always noticed is that the baseline was people always thought it was cool. People always thought it was different.
Yeah.
Like, so if you go on the dance floor and you act stupid, or, you go and ask a crazy question, or, whatever it may be, at the very least, it was different. At the very least, people will go, wow, you guys are so cool. And like, even if we didn't get anybody's number, nothing happened.
Mhm.
It was just a different experience. And to me, it was always, well, why go to the same places, have the same food, the same drinks, the same conversation, and
Mhm.
nothing changes. And people do that pattern for years and years and years
Mhm.
without ever thinking to change it. And to me, it was always like, well, like, look around. Everybody wants to have fun. Everybody wants something cool to happen. Everyone wants a story at the end of the night, right?
Yeah.
So go make the story happen. And I know that there's a barrier of uncomfortability for people, but the baseline was always something fun happened.
Hey everybody, I'm Adam Khalil. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I definitely want you to subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more content like this. But if this content had any value to you, click the like button as well.